Hey, ladies and gentlemen, KocoSports.com proudly presents 5 stars or better. That's right. Boom Boom here, checking the room live from the RVA, Richmond, Virginia, of course, along with my tag team partner in crime, Dave Koco, and we are going down all the matches ranked 5 stars or better by pro wrestling journalist Dave Meltzer. And this week, Coco, we've landed on a tag match, our very first tag match that we've done here in the series. This takes place in the Real World Tag League at All Japan Pro Wrestling in December of 1984. We've got Bruiser Brody and Stan Hansen versus Terry Funk and Dory Funk Jr. So this was, I mean, on paper, Coco, would you get excited about this like I did? Because on paper, I was like, yo, my God, this is going to be good.
I did get excited, but for a different reason. I live here in Japan, and all four of these men are legends, idolized. Like, Dory Funk has a school in Orlando, and not many people respect him. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, whatever, dude, the Dory Funk, the bang it, whatever. And I don't know why it's got a bad reputation. That's not what we're here for. But here, he's a legend. Terry Funk is a legend everywhere. Bruiser Brody is a legend. And Stan Hansen, to this day, when people think Gaijin wrestlers, they think Stan Hansen. Like you go to work and people are like, oh, you're into that pro wrestling? And they'll mention like one pro wrestler, like Hulk Hogan or Macho Man.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to foreign wrestlers, it's Stan Hansen. So I was very excited to see what it was like in their prime. And this is 5 stars. I mean, I might have seen this, but definitely not live. I was a wrestling fan in 1984. I just was a WCW, NWA, WWF every now and then guy. But yeah.
It's kind of disappointing because the world then isn't like what it is now. I mean, they didn't have the internet back then, so it's kind of disappointed that some of these matches and some of these great rivalries and just presentations were lost for the longest time now until the internet and stuff is uploaded there and you can go back and look at it. But God, this would have been amazing for American fans, Canadian fans, Mexican fans, people on this side of the pond to check out. But I'm glad it's on there. But let me set the stage for this match here, Coco.
All right, go
Now,
ahead.
this is the Real World Tag League. Now, this was it still is because they're still running it to this day. Is All Japan's version of World Tag League like New Japan does? It's a round robin tournament. You have roughly 8 teams compete in it. Round robin tournament. You get 2 points for a win, 0 points for a loss, 1 point if you take it to the time limit. Now, when these guys met up in '84, the Funks had won it in 1977, 1979, and 1982. The other guys in there, Bruiser Brody had won it with Jimmy Snuka in 1981, and both Brody and Hansen had won the Real World Tag League the previous year in 1983. Now, these were very good teams, always consistent. Brody and Hansen had won it with other partners, and the Funks, when they were in it, I think the worst they ever finished as a team is maybe third. I mean, they were always in the mix. So these were two of the best teams at the time going at each other's throats. So that kind of sets the stage for what was going on. Now, as far as who, let's just get into the match. I'll kind of get into some stuff later. But they started off here with Hansen and Dory Funk Jr. starting off. Stan Hansen just goes over to the other guy's corner, decks Terry Funk, then squares off with Dory. He gets into a headlock, brings him down, tags in Brody. Brody comes in with a big boot, a scoop slam. He goes to a wrist lock, a headlock. Then we have another boot by Brody, tags in Hansen, and then we kind of get to the meat of the match here. What would happen is I believe that Hansen and Brody were working as the heels and the Funks were working as the baby faces because you would have Hansen and Brody, double team, make frequent tags in and outs, try to isolate the other guy, beat him up, but the good guys would make a good, would make a comeback. Um, he, Dory went in and tagged in his brother Terry. Terry Funk would come back. I hate to be using first names, but I can't just say Funk because they're brothers. But Terry Funk would come
Funk
in.
tags funk.
Yeah, I know.
God.
Yeah, so he starts using his fist, but he eats an elbow. Uh, he misses an elbow, and then Hansen's able to tag in Stan Hansen, and they start working Terry over and take him into the ropes. They start brutalizing Terry Funk. Terry Funk, selling it like a fucking champ because he is. Uh, he finally reaches over, manages to get a tag to his brother. Dory goes in and he gets stopped right in his tracks. I was noticing something that every time the good guys would start to make a comeback, they would start to level even up the score. They would start to lay out the baby phases. They make the tag. They go in, start to hit maybe a couple of moves, and boom, they get stopped in their tracks by a boot, elbow, by something. They would go over here. Terry Funk got thrown up and over to the outside, came back in. Hansen started pounding on Terry Funk with the knees. There was a double team good enough for a 2 count. There was a pile driver actually executed by Brody in this one. Looked really great. That was good enough for a 2 count.
Boom,
They
boom.
put,
I didn't mean to
yeah,
cut you off. How many pile drivers have you seen since we started this show?
almost won every match that we've seen that we've been reviewing. We're not very far in this. We've been seeing a lot, especially the Japanese matches. They love those pile. This was like I hate to say it, but like a pile driver proper. Not a tombstone pile driver, what we would call a tombstone pile driver, but just a traditional, pile driver was used in this one. So they love it, and it was good enough for a 2 count. But he would get beat up. They had a really good spot where they were doing frequent tags, and Dory was looking bad, needed to take it to a desperation backdrop. Uh, Hansen distracted the referee, and Dory managed to tag in Terry, but the referee didn't see it, and there's Terry just working over, Hansen. The referee's like, no, 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 I didn't see you tag, I didn't see you tag, and so he's trying to get Terry back across the ropes, and now the bad guys are working over Dory. Terry's pleading his case. Then they did a move where Hansen hit Terry into the referee's out. Now it's on. The match spilled to the outside. Both Hansen and Brody used a table as a weapon. Like they picked it up and they just kept slamming it down on Dory. They rolled him back in. Again, they started hitting him. They kept Terry Funk trying to get inside. They kept knocking him back out. They pulled the referee back in. The referee stopped. Terry Funk's had enough. He goes gets a chain from the outside. He goes back and the referee's trying to stop him. Terry's finally had enough of the fucking referee. He hit him with the chain, and then he goes crazy. He starts choking the bad guys with the chain, hitting them with the chain. The bell finally rings. The referee just stops the match. I don't know what the official ruling was because I don't speak Japanese, but you can't stop them. And then Hansen and Brody start to storm off. But Terry Funk goes after him, after both of them, and he's using the chain. And they got the I guess the trainees, if you will, trying to break him up, spin around. Meanwhile, the the trainers are working on back in the ring checking on Dory Funk Jr. It's just all kind of crazy and chaotic. And that was the match. So, Coco, looking at it, do you think it deserves 5 stars?
Um, I I'm gonna say for its time, yes, but I'm noticing a pattern here that he's getting different. These are his early 5-star matches, and it seems like he's picking matches that are different. Maybe
Mhm.
he's like, oh, for me, I thought this was a great brawling tag team match,
Right.
but I think like at this point, and I could be wrong. This is just me thinking. At this point, he's trying to get one of every style, and then like once he's like, this one's 5 stars in that style. So to get 5 stars, you have to be better than that one, in this type of match.
Hmm.
Um, I thought it was kind of cool to see the Funks. I love Terry Funk, Dory. I didn't get to see much of Dory, so it
No.
was nice to see them. Just the selling, man. It was in the beginning before they made their comeback. It looked like a squash match for a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah, every time they would try to get something going, boom, they get shut down. And then, okay, then they finally get something going, make a tag. The brother would come in. He would get a couple offensive moves in, boom, get stopped right in his tracks. And we just rinse repeat for the whole match.
Yeah. So I thought it was a good brawling match.
Hmm.
I imagine a bit in the future, these matches probably motivated a Stone Cold Steve Austin. It reminded me like, oh, they're putting the grassroots. This is brawlers. Plus, the stuff they do. If you come to Japan and watch, they still do a lot of that stuff. The brawling in the crowd. You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
it's kind of like, I don't know if they're pioneers, but I haven't gone that far back down the rabbit hole. So I find it to be interesting. I love the brawling style and booms. It would not be a review. I want this myth to die.
Hmm.
That, oh, Japanese people are quiet and they're polite and you're just not over. Like a lot of times people are like, hey, like an excuse that foreigners use is when they come here, they're like, oh, Japanese fans don't cheer, they watch and they're being respectful. That is almost as bad as the KFC in Japan lie. It's just like, this isn't true. This isn't true. I mean, I think the only thing that Japanese fans are a little bit different than American fans is they don't boo when something sucks. If something is so god awful, they'll just leave. I think they're respectable that way. But people are like, oh, they're not popping because no, they pop, they go crazy. And we're seeing these 5-star matches. We're seeing these Wrestle Kingdom matches. And, I think it has to be that way because I always hear people be like, oh, he's over. And they're just not cheering because it's Japan. And I want that myth to die.
You know, this is just me as an outsider looking in when it comes to Japanese wrestling fans. Yes, they are quiet, they are polite. Because like over here in the U.S., people will jump up and down, they'll scream and all that. But in Japan, I mean, they do cheer. But they tend to like see it because they don't want to interfere with anybody else's experience in watching the event. However, if you do tell a good story in the ring, you do some good action, you get them emotionally involved, they will make noise. Now, they may not be jumping up and down in the seats, throwing their hands everywhere, holding up a sign, but they will make noise.
Yeah.
And the more you pull them in, the more they kind of lose themselves, and then they'll be more vocal about what they're watching. So to win over Japanese fans, yeah, it's a little bit tougher. Here in the United States, it's just a given. I mean, just part of the experience is, you're on your feet the entire time. You're cheering. You're booing. But in Japan, you got to work just a little bit more for it because if they're going to be, what they perceive to be rude to other fans, you're going to have to earn it.
Yeah. And, these four guys are legends. Even today,
Hmm.
Dory Funk shows up, people go crazy. Like, you'll go to some events at Cork Hall, and people will be wearing Dory Funk jackets. Terry Funk's over. Stan Hansen, you can't get any more over than him.
Hmm.
Bruiser Brody, is a legend. I think they're only going to cheer if they're, like, legit impressed. They
Right.
won't boo. Like, an American. And also, too, I think American fans go in with the attitude, oh, I'm going to boo and ruin this show, or I'm going to cheer no matter what. They kind of have that atmosphere, which is good and bad. Where
Hmm.
Japan's like, I'm not going to fucking cheer unless you're good. You know what I mean? But they're also not going to boo the shit out of you. I mean, if you get booed the shit out of them in Japan, wow, you need a new occupation. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
The worst I've ever seen in Japan is usually a drunk guy telling like an old lady to shut up because she's cheering too hard. That's kind of a
Hmm.
dick move. Or a foreigner will scream and shout, but yeah, you don't really see booing much. I do see people walk out though.
Right.
That's like their thing. They're just because the thing is they have so much pro wrestling. In America, I think their attitude, they'll bitch and complain, and this is me included, but they won't walk out. Where Japanese people are like, I'm out. Like they were the SpongeBob meme before the SpongeBob meme. Like if you do something they don't enjoy, they don't boo, they don't podcast. Well, most of them, they're just like, I'm out, you know. So yeah, um, but I think that to me that's like way worse if you're a performer. Like I think you'd rather be booed and you fucking suck than just get up and leave.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, I just want this kind of because I've been here for like 15 years and I just never made that connection. It's like no, they cheer and boo. But yeah, but a lot of times too, it's like they'll use all their energy for their favorite people. So like they'll be polite, but they're like, I'm gonna waste all my energy on Okada. I'm gonna waste all my energy on Muta. I'm gonna waste all my energy on Naito. You know what I mean? Where like Americans are like, I'm gonna be rocking all night long, baby.
Hmm.
So it's just different. But I think even though it's different, that myth of they're just being respectful is kind of like, you
Okay.
know.
All right. Well, and I'll tell you, this match may have ultimately cost both teams the tournament because uh, both Brody and Hansen and the Funks both ended it in a three-way tie with 10 points, along with the tag team. Believe it or not, this is a hell of a tag team right here in this tournament. Nick Botwinkle and Harley Race.
Damn.
That was a three-way tie for second, but ultimately Genichiro Tenryu and Jumbo Saruta would go on to win with 11 points.
You know,
So,
I know it's weird. Like
mhm,
I sometimes I watch old wrestling, especially with like some of my Japanese friends, and because like I like being somewhere that lived with them. You know what I mean? Like and they're
mhm,
like, oh, what was it like then? But after reviewing this match and hearing it, I kind of like to go back and see this tournament. And see
mhm.
where it goes. But yeah, they still have these tournaments and all Japan at one time was the hottest thing in the world, and then they messed up a bunch, and now they're kind of rebuilding. But yeah, I was a big All Japan guy, and then eventually I just went to New Japan because you know
Yeah.
you you know don't follow a company, follow your vision.
Mhm.
I think that's the most important lesson you can go here. Is there anything you'd like to add, sir?
No, it was good. Now, if you were talking about, other people in this tournament, the British Bulldogs were in this tournament. Giant Baba and Rusher Kimura were in this tag team along with One Man Gang. He teamed up with Goro Surumi, and Tiger Jeet Singh was in there, and his tag team partner was Mike Shaw. Now, you should probably know who you probably know. You're not going to believe this, but Mike Shaw, and this is again in 1984. This you would probably know this guy is Norman the Lunatic in WCW, but he's more infamously known as Bastion Booger in the WWF.
Hard
He was
times.
he was also in this tournament. Um, yeah. Now, as far as the tournament would go on throughout the years. In 19 let me scroll down here. 1988, Stan Hansen would win that tournament with another partner, Terry Bam Bam Gordy. Hansen would win it again in '89, along with Junichiro Tenryu, who won it in '84. Uh, so it was a regular thing. Now, as far as the people involved, Hansen, he would later go on. Let's see. After this, he would go to the AWA in the next year in '85, and he would wind up leaving over a dispute over dropping the title in '86 to Nick Botwinkle. Now, like if you start dabbling in some of these guys' careers, I mean, it's just a little bit deeper. It's fascinating as hell because um, Hansen had been set up like he was loyal to Giant Baba, who owned All Japan, and he had set up title defenses and stuff for him. And he goes to the AWA, and in that night, and they said, okay, you're dropping the belt. Now the rumor goes that they said he no showed, but the rumor is that he was in the building, and they said, hey, you're dropping the belt to Botwinkle. He immediately got on the phone with Baba and said, hey, is it cool to lose the belt? And Baba's like, no, I've already got you set up to defend the championship. I've got all this stuff set up. No, you can't drop the belt. So he said, I'm not dropping the belt. And he pieced out and took the championship with him. And it actually got lawyers involved, and they told him, please stop calling yourself the AWA champion. Please stop, carrying around our championship, because they had to have Botwinkle carrying around a tag belt until they could physically get the AWA championship. And Hansen said okay, and he ran over the belt with his pickup truck and mailed it back to him with the tire track still on it.
That's awesome, man. I like hearing shit like that. It was
Oh
so
man.
competitive back in the day.
Oh,
Nowadays you go on Twitter and you're like, "Can you believe AEW made fun of WWE?" And they be WWE did it first. Meanwhile, they're like, "Yeah, dude, we'll fucking break each other's titles." Oh man,
yeah, and
when
he
men were men.
he would basically stick around all Japan until about 1990. He would, he was taking bookings everywhere, but he was with All Japan until about 1990. He had went to WCW around 1990, and he wound up leaving over like there was like this bad segment. It was called like the Desperados, and it was supposed to be like these bumbling cowboys, and they were looking for Stan Hansen, and Hansen was like didn't want any part of it, so he bolted, and they dropped the Desperados angle. Uh, he would come back to New Japan in '91 and basically stay there to about 2001. He was actually I think he was only like one of two people who did not leave during the Great Exodus that Misawa led after Giant Baba passed away. And he would eventually he would get surgery on his back and have both knees replaced. He became the commissioner of All Japan's Pacific Wrestling Federation Championship governing body, and he held that until about 2007 when he gave that up the position to Hiroshi Hase. And he was inducted in the WWE Hall of Fame back in 2016. And another interesting thing I found out, Dave, about Hansen was in 1976. He debuted in Madison Square Garden for the then Worldwide Wrestling Federation. About a couple months after he'd been competing with the company, he started feuding with Bruno Sammartino. And in April of 1976, went and had a match with him in Madison Square Garden and wound up legitimately breaking his fucking neck. Like, if you now kayfabe, they said that he was hit with that trademark lariat and he may have loaded his elbow pad, but in reality, it was like a simple scoop slam. He accidentally dropped Bruno Sammartino on like his neck and the back of his head, and I think he was like his sixth cervical vertebrae. He came with probably about a millimeter of like paralyzing him or killing him, either one. And it was just, whew, and that was absolutely crazy. Dory Funk Jr., you could argue that, his best days were behind him. He was only 43 when this match happened, Koco. Now, he had about four stints in All Japan from 73 to 87 and then 90 to 96. He wrestled a match in 2008, and then he wrapped up from 2013 to 2017. He had been, as a performer, as a single star, he'd become the NWA World Heavyweight Champion in 1969 when he beat Gene Kiniski, and he carried that championship all the way to May of 1973 when he lost it to Harley Race. Terry Funk, he was about 40 at the time, and he became NWA World Heavyweight Champion in '75 when he beat Jack Briscoe, and then he wound up losing it later on to, guess what, Harley Race. And to this day, the Funks are still, as of right now, the only legitimate brothers, to both be NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Bruiser Brody would tragically lose his life 4 years later when he was pretty much stabbed to death in a shower in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, one of the
There's,
most insane moments in pro wrestling
yeah,
history. I don't know where to rank it, but it's pretty insane.
yeah. It's there's Vice made a Dark Side of the Ring episode completely dedicated to that incident. I would encourage people to watch that. So just all around. I mean, these guys were just whew, absolutely amazing. It's a good match. I hate that it kind of got lost in time, but now thanks to the internet, you can pull moments like these up. So I would say if this were to be held today, Coco, do you think it would still get 5 stars?
Probably not. But you also got to remember they were pioneers at the time.
Mm-hmm.
No, because tag team matches usually don't rank as high. Usually. I mean, there's some exceptions to the rule, but most of them are one-on-one matches, and it's a brawling type match, and it's not a very clean place. So I don't think it gets 5 stars. But, you also got to remember they were, especially in Meltzer's eyes, they were kind of pioneers at the time, So, yeah. I don't think it gets 5 stars today, but that doesn't mean they didn't deserve their 5 stars, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think?
I don't know if this same match gets 5 stars today, but I still think it would be considered a good match. I think what might turn some people off is kind of like the disqualification or the no contest at the end. That might turn some people off, but like you just said, Coco, you gotta look at the context of it. And the context, I mean, these guys were pioneers of this, so this stuff, it wasn't really commonplace at the time. So
And even if it was, it's going on a bigger stage.
mhm.
Nowadays we could see everything, but back then you tape traders and reading newsletters, and it was a different time. So I think they deserve the 5 stars.
Yep. Wow. Any final thoughts, man? Because I would encourage the internet infantry. Yeah, check this one out. It's if you want to see these, I've never before this. I had never really seen Terry or Dory Funk Jr., especially Dory Funk, is not an old man. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that to be disrespectful. I mean, they were both in their 40s at the time of this match. I was used to seeing Terry Funk back in the late 80s, early 90s when he was going by the whole middle aged and crazy. He was more of a brawler at the time. He'd switched up his style. He had gone more to brawling. Dory Funk was really not active, at least not in the big promotions that I was watching at the time. Not even though that both the Funks made an appearance at WrestleMania 2 in a tag match, but not to this level. And I'd never really seen him as, again, not trying to be disrespectful here, but not old men. I didn't get to see them when they were younger and a little bit more agile.
Well, that, and also too, around this time, I'm big into pro wrestling, but these are more like legends. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you should have seen Stan Hansen and Bruiser Brody, the Funk brothers. So I feel like, how younger fans must feel when talking to us. Like, oh man, I'm discovering this. These are names I heard, but it's great to discover again. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe we become a fucking old school channel, Booms, just because it's interesting. To me it is, at least.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Booms, you want to wrap this bad boy up, sir?
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us on this edition of 5 Stars or Better. We're going to be back next week, hopefully sooner, with another 5 star or better match. In the meantime, you can be sure to check us out at KocoSports.com. That's KOCO Sports.com. It's your home for combat sports. It's where the world goes to kick ass, and most importantly, where it's okay to be a passionate fan. Also, check out Dave Koco's website, DaveKoco.com. You've got links to merchandise, including his book, Operation Freak Show. Plus, he's got a new novel coming out. It's called Lucky the Orphan, loosely based on his life. And then, of course, when Coco's not doing the stream and bitching about things on the internet, he's playing on Twitch. So Twitch TV/KocoSports, KOCO Sports. He plays a lot of sports games poorly, and including Fall Guys, which he can't make it over that slime climb.
It's impossible.
I'm,
It's the most impossible thing in the world.
But I'm pulling for him. So
Well,
maybe he'll achieve. Maybe the Pigeon Pack will finally get the crown.
We're gonna try to talk Boom Boom into joining the Pigeon Pack, and that is our Fall Guys team. So if anyone's interested in Fall Guys on PlayStation, add me, Dave Koco, PSN. Oh man, dude, I've probably put the 20, 30 hours into this game. I've not even come close. I think I've come close twice or 3 times, but I've not won a crown yet. I think it's impossible. There has to be a world record for not winning a crown. I think I got it. Anyway, yeah, check me out, twitch.tv, KocoSports, and check out DaveKoco.com. Booms, I love you, brother. And do you have any idea what the next match is?
Oh, yes, I do. We're gonna have a ladies' night, if you will. Which you'll have to tune in next week to find out what it is.
All right. With that, like, comment, subscribe, and we are over. Hey, ba-dum, bum, bum.